All right, welcome to Imperial Advisor episode 7. Got a full cast character. We've got Eoin, Justin, Andy, and Baz. Hey guys, and fresh off of Crab Week, so gonna talk quite a bit of Crab. Discuss sort of the cards, the game we saw on L5 Live. What we sort of hope to see, want to see from Phoenix coming next week, and the fiction. And then maybe just talk as we're getting close to things like pre-orders and maybe the European release event, and just sort of have a look at where we are now with kind of the clans as a whole. I think we've got a picture of most of the clans now. And talk about what we see from that. And of course, we've got our beaver facts back again by popular demand to make return. So,
wait, who demanded beaver facts?
People,
many
internet
viewers.
people. A lot of people commented on the beaver facts in the beaver fact show. That's all I'll say. Is that, I mean, I'm not sure that they wanted it more of it, but they commented on it.
There were definite comments.
They're getting it now, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing, turns out. Right, so I think let's just dive into cards. And so we'll maybe start, and I'll pick off a couple of the kind of Crab staples, and then we'll go into Dynasty cards and then Conflict. So I guess the staples are things like the Stronghold, 10 starting honor, which is sort of one less than Dragon and Crane, but for that you get one province strength. And I think also gives us a picture of what the sort of spread of honor is going to be. We've seen between 10 and 12 now across the clans, and a defensive +1/+1 for each defending character in a conflict. Just kind of similar sort of ability to what we've seen from other ones. Then defend the wall. After you win a conflict at this the province, after you win a conflict at this province, resolve the ring effect of that conflict as if you were the attacking player. And maybe look at a couple of the holdings as well. Choose a card in one of your provinces, switch to this holding with that card. Another +2 province strength. So that was one we saw a while ago, but I think it's worth just recapping some of those we've seen. And the other holding we saw was Funeral Pyre. Sacrifice a friendly character to draw a card. And this sort of sacrifice theme we've sort of seen a little bit from Crab. And I guess let's throw in the Great Bear, Hida Casada. 7/2 for 5 fate, 0 glory, which is kind of interesting in itself. While you have not lost a conflict this phase, cancel the effects of the first action ability your opponent triggers from a card during each conflict. So we saw that in action during the live game. Certainly quite strong. Andy, what are your thoughts on kind of those core cards that are kind of some of the staples we'll see from Crab?
Well, I guess we'll address the bear in the room first. Casada is he's a bit of a monster, to be honest. I mean, seven military strength. Granted, he's only 2 in political, but that is a huge number. I mean, he can go over and beat your face in, basically. If he wants to take a province, he probably will. So the thing with his trait, I mean, being able to trigger that probably 3 times, up to 3 times in one turn, that's kind of fucking scary. Maybe 4 times. I mean, 4 times is the ideal, the dream. But I mean, even just once is you're getting so much value out of him. But you're going to declare a conflict. You're probably going to be able to win the conflict that you choose, and then maybe a defense as well. It just seems kind of ridiculous. Would it trigger only 4 times, or for every individual province that you? No, it's only for one conflict, right?
Yeah, it'll be one conflict each. So that's 4 conflicts in total. Because he doesn't have to be in it; he just has to be on the table.
Oh, that's even worse. Then that's even more crushing. You don't even have to put him in harm's way. So that's kind of insane. I mean, you'll probably get it at least twice, possibly 3 times in a turn, but that's crazy. As for the other ones, I mean, defend the wall. It's it's a fairly decent standard card. Well, one question I have on it is how often can ring effects be triggered in a single round? Can a ring effect only be triggered once in a round?
At that province, probably once.
So
yes, potentially twice.
Yeah,
but shenanigans.
Okay. Of course. If you're playing against Phoenix or Dragon, yeah.
The attacker's going to pick the ring, and then you defend, and you'll get that ring instead of them, but you won't get a chance to do it unless you play around it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty good. It makes people not want to attack that province. So I mean, you can. If you're going to put up a stout defense, that's probably a good place to defend. I think the provinces in general have been, I don't know, most of them have been a little bit uninspiring for me. The ones that I've seen at least have been a bit uninspiring. But I mean, this is it's an additional thing that makes it difficult for a person to attack into, or at least makes them think twice about attacking into it. Because if you lose a void ring, if you lose, let's say an air ring or something to put your opponent to put yourself over on honor or take honor away from them, it's a dodgy prospect. But I guess if you're attacking into this, you want to be pretty sure that you're going to win that fight. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's going to make attacking crap early in the game pretty terrifying.
That's true. That's true.
Because if you decide you're going over with whatever military void and you bump into this thing, then the crab will just more than likely happily gang block it, and
you lose a fate on one of your guys.
Yeah. They'll claim the void ring for the crab clan, and then just punch one of your guys in the face.
Could be absolutely crippling for a line player.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm specifically with void. I think if you bump into this early and lose at that province, then it could be game deciding. So attacking the crab early is.
I'd be more worried about water. If you're attacking with water and you've got some guys with no fate on them that you're hoping to defend with later, they snag that, and then all of a sudden you're losing 2 provinces. And one notable thing about Defend the Wall is it is an Earth province, but it doesn't help you save that province. So with the crab, once they see that flip, they're going to be making decisions over whether they can win that or not. But that province isn't going to help them win, which means that they're not playing any of those other Earth provinces that will be harder to crack. So the decisions being made there.
Yeah. Again, with and looking at Borderlands fortification, I mean, it's sort of just, it plays into the whole I'm crab, I'm going to be able to sit back and defend. It's going to be a lot harder for you to take my provinces. With this one, I really like that you can swap this to somewhere where either where you haven't given away any information as to what the province is, or somewhere where you have, to make it more to make it easier to defend, basically, or maybe even presenceless defense. You can do this during a battle, right?
Yeah, but I think your province will have flipped first because of the order of things, because it's an action.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. That'll be my reading.
This just lets you save the card in the province, and it lets you give the province +2 province strength. Okay. Both valuable, but stopping your deal.
I think there are also significant shenanigans possible with this card in charge, which we'll get to later on. But you could, if I'm reading it right, you could quite deliberately swap this out of a province that's being attacked to swap a personality in.
I think so too. Yeah. That's.
And just bring it out. So there are some shenanigans potentially with this.
I'm not sure that's one, but I think that is a good example of a play to protect it, because if you leave it till the very last minute and you see that they cannot take that province, if you move your Borderlands fortification in, you drop it in, it saves the province. At the same time, if they're attacking one where it's already there and you know they're going to be able to take it, you can move your Borderlands fortification out and save it for later. Charge, I'm not sure it'll work with charge. I think charge is just busted and much better than you're thinking. Let's go now.
I'm just saying, This this wasn't a referendum on how good charge is, because I agree that card is and it's just there are potential shenanigans with this card that might make charge even better.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when it was played in the recent playthrough that FFG did, it actually came out of a province into an attacking province.
So I've got a mock-up that was done by someone in the Facebook group. I'll give them credit. Gray Morgan did them. So this text could be wrong on the art. It is a mock-up. It's not the accurate card. But this said, action during a military conflict. Choose a character in your provinces. Put it into play into the conflict. So he doesn't have to be at that province. So there's no need to swap. A guy.
No need for shenanigans. It's pretty busted.
Oh wow! What?
Sounds.
Wow! I just assumed the charge was a reasonable card and that it had to be in the province.
It's only for military conflict, and you need a guy face up. There's costs there, man.
So if you compare it against Bonsai, which we all know is busted and totally game unbalancing, actually it seems reasonable. But I think we've woefully underestimated the level that they've set this game at, and we're beginning to see a lot of really powerful cards now, and they're just adding to the pile of really powerful cards. So, fun.
I want to ask about someone mentioned the best part of Quesada. Who's it? Mirholtz did best part of Quesada's Zero Glory.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of curious people's opinion of the glory set at this point, where. So, is zero a good thing or a bad thing, basically?
Like, Americans believe in American exceptionalism. They think that if anyone works hard, they can get honored. But in reality, most people are going to be dishonored.
I don't know. We haven't seen much Scorpion yet, right?
Yeah, unless you're Crane. I mean, those guys get honored all over the shop.
Or you're a character who has an ability that honors themselves.
Yeah.
Like a Crane.
Crane, yeah.
I think.
Go on, Brian.
I think if you're Crane, or if you've got ways to honor yourself, high honor is great. Otherwise, you probably want low honor to protect yourself from those Crane and those Scorpion, no doubt. Now we have seen a couple of cards key off it though and target glory, which suggests maybe you want higher bits of glory, because Quesada is always 100% guaranteed to be vulnerable to Miramoto's. Whatever that card was. Miramoto's Fury, I think it was. 100% of the time, Justin. 100 guaranteed.
I know.
I mean, he will cancel it. But
I suppose, the thing is that Crab are unlikely, at least at this stage, to be playing with honor and dishonor mechanics. Like, their means of honor control are different. Their board control and honor control they go a different direction. So having zero, I think, is in general a positive thing for Crab.
It's no downside. I mean, it's no liability. It's no grace. It's not a way that they're going to win the game. So, I mean,
it seems
it's just a perfect set.
It seems a little like untapped glory when you're taking the Imperial favor is almost the exception rather than the rule. Most of the time, the Imperial favor seems to come down to rings rather than untapped glory at the end of turn.
Although with send home effects, you can accidentally end up winning it or giving it to your opponent because you've sent home a 3 glory guy who's not going to be able to do anything for the rest of the turn. You're feeling pretty good because you saved your province, and then they get the Imperial favor.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into some of the Dynasty cards, the characters. So we have Hida Tomonatsu. Which this art, which just kind of reminds me of one of the first things I saw of the new game, was this art for her. So 3 fate, 3/2, 2 glory. Reaction: after this character wins a conflict as a defender, sacrifice it. Choose a non-unique attacking character and return that character to the top of its owner's deck. Okay. Haruma Yojimbo. So very highly statted 4/3 for 2 fate and 2 glory. Character cannot be declared as an attacker. So kind of a classic bit of crab defense. And so this card from The Table is Yours, spoiler, Kaiju Shuichi, 4 fate 3/3. Bushi Engineer. First time I think we've seen engineer keyword with covert. So when this character attacks, he can choose someone who cannot be declared as a defender. During a conflict in which this character is participating, if there's a holding in play, gain 1 fate. So a little bit of that, more of that holding synergy. And also fate gain, which we've seen a little bit of from Crab. The Shrujisuki, which we saw before, which gives a little bit of extra card draw. Again, based off of holdings. This card, I really like this guy. The 4 Fate Steadfast Witch Hunter, 4 military, 2 political, 0 glory, Shugenja Earth. Sacrifice a friendly character, choose a character to ready that character. And Vengeful Berserker, a 3-zip for 3, 0 glory. After another character you control leaves play during a conflict, double this character's military skill until the end of that conflict. And we also had an Eager Scout, which was sort of shown previously, and another one we don't have art for is, which was on the Team Covenant video, was Intimidating Hida, who was a 3 fate, 4/2, 1 glory. After an opponent passes on declaring a conflict, that player loses 1 honor. So, and that's kind of another interesting sub-theme I think people didn't necessarily expect to see from Crab, is honor loss. Eoin, kind of, what are your sort of takeaways from that sort of cast of personalities, of characters? Who do you really like?
There's a lot to like in there. They're not as often straightforward, rah powerful as the Cranial Lion guys, but there are a lot of synergies that become apparent when you start playing with them. Tomonatsu is interesting. She's the character who actually dies in the Crab fiction. And appropriately, her ability is a sacrifice ability. Really, really, really good at the right time. And I think okay at other times. She will be, I think, one of the trickier personalities to actually use, because you need to time her really carefully. They need to have a personality, a non-unique with a bunch of fate in them that they really want to keep on the board. And then you want to be like, okay, I want to make Tomonatsu this turn, and I want to pull her off. I think something like Charge could be really strong with her, where you basically bring her in specifically to spoil somebody's day and just leave her face up in your provinces. And when someone comes in at the right time, Tomonatsu comes in, and then I win the conflict, and you get bounced to the top of your deck, and all your attachments presumably get discarded.
I was going to say, like, what happens to attachments? I can only assume they get discarded, right?
I presume so. I mean, there's no reason to think otherwise.
Disembodied daishos floating around killing things.
Rumijimbo is really, really excellent stats, really solid defender. More for the Dishonor deck than the military deck, I think, but a lot to like. Just great value, and not many real weak points on that character.
Do you think we will see her mind being clouded?
Maybe. I don't. I think that's an edge play. It might happen.
I mean, at the point where she becomes you have to think of it as almost like a 3 fate plus discard a card for that, and then suddenly actually you're not getting that much value. But maybe if you need the play, it's
I can see her charging in occasionally. We're going to see a lot of talk about charge from this point on. Intimidating Hida, he's one of the cores of the Dishonor deck. He's the guy who sits there going, "Oh, you didn't attack? Well, that's just terrible." And it's the damned if you do, damned if you don't school of Dishonor, where he on the one hand will punish you for not attacking, whereas the Watch Commander, which we'll see later, will punish you for attacking. So I'm always a fan. I'm always a fan of those kind of mechanics, where it's like, well, you are in trouble either way, so pick your poison.
Yeah.
One guy we didn't see there, we saw on the stream, was Caillou Envoy, who is absolutely one of the core parts of the Crab deck, because you see these sacrifice abilities littered through the deck or littered through the card pool, and you really need someone you don't feel bad about sacrificing, and he is the guy you get stuff for sacrificing. So he is a 1/0 for 1 with courtesy and sincerity, So when he leaves play, you draw a card and gain a fate. So if you paid 1 for this guy, he is effectively basically he's free on a delay because you're gonna get that fate back, and that's kind of incredible.
Yeah. And we saw him sacrifice to the Witch Hunter with just like sacrifice this guy, gain a fate, draw a card, and ready a card, which is just an amazing play.
Absolutely. Kaio Shuichi is the first covert guy we've seen. I think he's the first person with covert printed on them. We saw the Dragon Attachment who gives people covert, but that's about it. And it's a strong mechanic. And he also has that little economic edge you're starting to see creeping in with Crab, where Crab have ways that they gain fate during their turn. And as we've seen just from a little bit we're playing, little bits of fate gain really add up because there are not a huge amount of them. There's one province we've seen, there's himself, there's people with the right keyword, but that's kind of it. Then we have Shurujisuki, just good value. Steadfast Witch Hunter, it's good to see strong forecast people, and she is not as blatantly strong as some of the forecasters, but she's going to be around probably for 2 or 3 conflicts, or if you've got an even better target, that person's around for additional conflicts, and that's just epic. I played games with I played Game of Thrones, and getting a straighten effect on the board is massive. Just doing any character doing double duty, huge, absolutely huge, and critically a Shigenja, which could matter for some effects, notably as I said, Cloud of Mind.
Yeah, I think that's the only Shigenja we've seen, though, isn't it?
Yeah, from Crab.
Yeah.
There's the Vengeful Berserker is kind of interesting. He's the most exciting part about it is his pump isn't restricted. Way of the Lion caps you at twice printed. This guy does not. If you banzaied this guy and maybe pumped him with a Hida Guardian or something else like this guy explodes. But this guy, because he's not 0 in politics, because he's zip, he's much more limited. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I definitely think he's the military decks guy, and he's quite happy. He's quite happy in that deck, and I don't think you'd see him in the Dishonor deck. And with the Eager Scout, who's free, and I don't think we've Hida Guardian up yet. Hida Guardian is the 1/1 who gives somebody, I think it's +2/+2 per holding you control.
Nice.
And it's a 1-cost 1/1, and yeah, super good.
So you've talked a little bit about sort of the military deck and the Dishonor deck. Do you see those being 2 decks straight off the bat, or do you think that they need to evolve for Crab to have kind of 2 very distinct but effective decks?
With 3 cores, you could build a Dishonor deck, and I think it'd be decent. I'm not sure it will be immediately there, but I think there's a deck there, and I think now the metagame and the way people change may kind of make it slightly less viable. But I could build a Dishonor deck right now, and I think it'd be half decent.
Yeah, but I mean, it gives you all kinds of options as well, because it means you can. Well, depending obviously on how good honor turns out to be in the environment, and possibly Dishonor as well, it means that you can just splash these cards into a military deck, which then gives you a ready built metagame against honor. Yeah. So you can focus an awful lot of your and like the Crabs seem actually tremendously good at beating up on other military decks.
I was just going to say, I think the Crabs' greatest thing right now is utility. There's so much there. I mean, the stats are great, the abilities are really nice, they've got good synergy. Looks like and the economic advantage that they seem to be pushing is really, really nice.
Yeah, the downside I see with the Crab at the moment is just variance. You have guys that you want to be sacrificed. You have guys that want to sacrifice other guys. You've got holding interactions. So you've got an awful lot of cards that are competing for Dynasty deck slots. And if you're trying to if you're trying to get everything you can out of a Crab deck, if you're trying to really, really derive as much value from the cards that you put in as possible, you are opening yourself up to a whole bunch of bad draws or potentially bad draws. So I think building a crab deck is actually going to be an exercise in very careful curation as to exactly how you are going to approach the game and the risks you're willing to take in terms of just card variance versus power, because the synergies look amazing. But that's just the one concern I would have. There's a temptation, I think, to get very, very greedy with them, and could be.
Just to talk quickly about the dishonor side of things. I know we've been looking at dishonor as a victory condition, but at the same time, it is card draw, and the crab seem to have a lot going for them in. From the card draw side, between Funeral Pyre and what is that? The Shrewd Yasuki. Just those two together, and I think they have a few other options in there as well. Just those two together seem to offer a lot of card draw. When assuming that they're going to be bidding a lot of zeros and are going to be doing these bits and pieces of dishonor, on top of that, they're making it extra hard for people to actually do what they want to do. So you're forcing hard choices. You can't target your Borderlands defender with a bow action. You got to do something else. You have to just basically waste a card before you can play anything against Quesada. It kind of feels like they've got a bit of a discard thing going on at the other side as well. So they're limiting the card draw. They're making the actions you have trickier to play, and they're forcing you to try play around everything they put on the table. Yeah, getting it all together.
Yeah, they're just unpleasant to play against. It's just like, just like the crab.
And like,
so they've kept them true to their roots. They've kept crab true to their roots. Yeah.
I have to say, like
LPA since 2003.
Yeah, actually, I have to say, like when I'm playing old L5R, Crab Clan was the only clan. Whenever I saw I was playing against them, they made my heart sink every time. It was, oh god.
Yeah,
here we go.
Always a terrifying deck. Always, there's just like awful to play against. Really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm glad to see they're keeping that proud tradition.
Oh yeah. Of dominance.
I think I probably played against Crab more than any other deck. I was thinking about this today, that I probably played more games against Crab than anyone else in the old game, just because of Fats and Fiacra and Eoin and the guys in our scene.
I feel like the European tournament scene there was a huge crab representation for a lot of years. I mean, there was Salman Barakat, who was rocking it the whole time. There was our very own Hida Eoin. I remember coming up against, I think it was Gen Con 2000 and I can't remember, it was 2008 or 2010. God, it was just crab after crab after crab, and it was awful. It was bloody awful. Back in the days of was that Razor's Edge Dojo? Was that Razor's Edge? With Gosoku Sensei? Never mind. I'm mixing everything up now at this point.
The combo that sends out to me is pick your battles in you. I was just like,
oh god, oh Jesus, yeah. You see these mechanics. They would give these stupid mechanics like the U mechanic, and all of a sudden, losing a fight was the best thing you could possibly do.
Oh, you lost the fight. Oh, you're going to regret that. Oh, you won the fight. Oh, you're going to regret.
Oh, you're going to regret.
And that's crap. It's like, oh, you tried to play. Oh, you're going to regret that one.
Okay, so let's jump into the conflict deck. So let's start with Way the Crab, sort of a signature card. Sacrifice a friendly crab character. Choose an opponent. That player must sacrifice a character. So, I mean, you can see that being used against a dragon deck with sort of highly invested characters to great effect. And then we've got a couple of 3 influence cards. So again, kind of quite signature cards. The Mountain Does Not Fall. 1 fate event. Choose a character until the end of the phase. The character does not bow as a result of conflict resolution while defending. Levy. Choose an opponent. That player must select one. Give you 1 fate or 1 honor. So again, tough choices, and a 0 cost event. So just free stuff, which I like. A couple of attachments. So Reprieve, which lets people stay around for a little bit longer. We saw that kind of very early on. Watch Commander, which we've mentioned about sort of the dishonor effect. So +1/+1 for 1 fate. Another 3 influence card attached to a character you control, limit of 1. After opponent plays a card during a conflict in which the attached character is participating, that player loses 1 honor. Some more dishonor shenanigans. Haruma Ambusher. So we've got a couple of characters from the conflict deck. 2/2 for 2, 0 glory. After this character enters play as a defender, choose a character. That character's abilities cannot be triggered during this conflict. Stoic Gunso. 2/1 for 2, 1 glory. During conflict, sacrifice a friendly character. This character gains +3 military. And no, that's the Phoenix card. So, Baz, you did a little article over on imperialadvisor.com, which I advise everyone to check out if they want to see your thoughts. But what's your assessment of the conflict side?
Okay, so the first thing that strikes me is that we have a bunch of 1 influence cards. We didn't have that with the dragon, and the 1 influence cards that we can see here are really, really good. Reprieve is the first one that comes to mind. It has a great amount of utility. Being able to drop what essentially is 1 extra fate on one of your characters is just amazing. You have your big guy. He's going to go away at the end of the turn. You pumped everything into him that you had when you brought him out initially, but this is a few turns down the line. You can drop Reprieve and you can keep your big guy around a little bit longer. For just 1 influence, like the return on value you get for that is amazing. It's also got a couple of nice little tricks in it. Like you can stop that Crane player from getting rid of or getting that 1 point of honor as his honored guy gets discarded, which is a bit of a niche case, but it also protects against some of the targeted discard. So if that Crane player dishonors your guy, you drop Reprieve, and then when they what's that card? When they destroy their honored guy to destroy your dishonored guy, it's not going to work because they've got Reprieve to defend them. So, I mean, Vandy utility at Reprieve is absolutely amazing. And it's 1 influence, so I think that's a card you'd expect to see. The Stoic Gunso and the Haruma Ambusher are both 1 influence. Getting more conflict characters down, like they're just great. They're just handy to have. More bodies is always useful.
I just have a technical question on Reprieve. Does it actually work when you want to pay a cost on a card to, and this might be going too technical into old L5R, when you want to pay a cost and it would be to destroy or sacrifice the character, and you sacrifice this instead, you destroy this attachment instead, does that still fulfill the cost?
So we haven't seen it confirmed, but from the other games that FFG does, because the character didn't get discarded, it would not fulfill the cost.
Okay. So it doesn't have quite unbridled utility.
It's just amazing. It's not completely bonkers. For me, one of the interesting things is getting the Stoic Gunso into another clan lets you start sacrificing stuff. So Stoic Gunso is 2/1 for 2, and during a conflict, if you discard a friendly character, you can get +3 military. The Crab will probably be quite tight on the number of guys that they have because they've got so many effects and so many different ways to sacrifice them. But all the other clans don't. This gives them an opportunity to take that guy who's bowed at home and has no fate on them, is essentially has passed by their sell-by date, and actually squeeze an extra 3 force out of it. So I think a lot of the time this Stoic Gunso is going to be a 2-cost 5 force character that just comes into play. Again, 1 influence. I just can't get over that. It's really good. And on the other side, you've got the Haruma Ambusher. Again, it's 2 cost and it's a 2/2. But after you bring the Haruma Ambusher into play, target character can no longer use your ability during the conflict. I think that's really strong. For me, this is the let go or the voice of honor or the ready for battle for Crab. Each of the different clans seems to be targeting a different kind of thing, but Crab get to see something on the table and they go, we don't like that. We're not going to let that happen. drop this ambusher, and that problem is dealt with. I think all those are really good. They're all one influence, which I think will mean a lot of options, a lot of splashing with Crab for other people. At the 2 level of influence, we've seen the Jade Tetsubo, which I quite like. It seems like it could be tricky to play, because all that fate's going back. But I mean, it is a problem solver. It gets something off the board, and Dragon will probably like it. Well, may like it. It has a bow effect, which you're not as keen in, because sometimes you want to bow their attachments. But it's another weapon, which is pretty decent. And another 2 influence was Rebuild. Probably quite good for the Crab, because as far as we're aware, the effect is 0 cost. Fetch one of your holdings from your discard, put it back into play, and you can go ahead and use it. We've seen one where you can just discard the holding and draw a card. So this is a way to cycle that. Or if something good has been destroyed by your opponent, you can drop it back into play. I doubt that's going to see much play outside of Crab, to be honest. But it's still kind of interesting. The rest of all the Crab cards are all sitting at 3, which makes them quite Crab defining, I think. So. Oh no, sorry. The Watch Commander is sitting at 2. The Watch Commander is an interesting one.
No, he's 3.
Is he 3? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything else is sitting at 3. That's good then. So you've got the Mountain Does Not Fall, Levy, and Watch Commander. So yeah, Watch Commander just really limits the number of things that your opponent can do. Realistically, people are going to keep playing cards because they want to win those conflicts, but it's just going to wear them down, and there will come a point in which they can't do anything else, because you're so close, they're so tight. They'll stop drawing cards. They'll start having to make really difficult choices because they're just a hair's breadth away. So it kind of, at first, once the Watch Commander comes down, it's not going to do much, but it'll slowly start choking the opponent, essentially. Levy might be the finisher in some cases for that. So it's I think a 0 cost card again. Your opponent gets to choose whether to give you 1 fate or they give you 1 honor. What's notable about that is it's not coming from the pool, it's coming from them. So if they have no fate, then they have to give you that honor. And that's a 1 point dishonor. If it's played at the right time, it's a guaranteed point of dishonor. Even though it's 3 influence, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this in some of the Crane or Scorpion decks, whatever is looking to dishonor or honor, and this seems to be a really reliable way of doing it. I think once you start getting into those low points, you will actually have to put a point of fate aside just for when the Crab decides to levy you, or a Crab levy gets played, which well, I think we'll lose some games or win some games with that. The Mountain Does Not Fall is the other 3 influence one, so you don't bow when you defend. It's a little trickier because you've got to drop it on the character before the battle ends, but looks quite strong. You can get a lot of mileage out of that. But the piece de resistance, the real joy is Way of the Crab. My God, this card is so good. It is unnatural. So I thought it was pretty amazing when we watched Brad discard his Yakuni, and I didn't understand why. And it was only after it was explained to me that if he had played Yakuni turn 1, then Eric would have possibly popped out an Eager Scout and Way of the Crabbed it. I mean, that's a brutal turn 1. You're just that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the game gone.
It's just it's literally just dawning on me as I look at the card now that this is not in a conflict. This is
no, this is any time.
Yeah.
This is the biggest removal card in the game at the moment, I would say. Seeing that in your opening hand, it's like, that's so powerful.
It completely defines how you play against Crab. You cannot have a situation where you've only got you've got 1 on the board. Now, I thought it was pretty good, just considering that early case where you're bringing out your clan champion. And honestly, I think that clan champion opening is going to be quite popular for at least at the start. But good God, don't do it against Crab.
But not against Crab. Yeah,
not against Crab.
I mean, you're gonna worry about even putting investing in a 2-cost guy or investing in a 1-cost guy with putting any fate on him. It means that you're immediately opening yourself up to losing tempo. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, and I was discussing this with Eoin yesterday because he posed another scenario to me that I honestly didn't grasp at first, and he had to slowly break it down for me. But if you've got, if you manage to survive that first turn and you've got Yukuni on the board and you've made a couple of cheap guys and got them out, do not have Yukuni by himself at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
Because
anyone alone, yeah.
The first action that will happen at the start of the next turn is going to be way to crab before you've had a chance to even make anything. And again, you've lost that big guy. It's all about a setup. It's all about preparation and knowing how to minimize your losses. And for the crab, that's not that hard. And more importantly, how to maximize your opponent's loss. It's so utterly defining for the crab, and I think it's going to be the one thing that's in everyone's mind when they sit down against the crab, and they're going to make sure that they don't get their clan champion first turn, and then they're going to face up against Quesada, and they're going to wish they had their clan champion. Love that card. It's amazing.
Are we sure there is an action window then? Kind of at that end of turn before Dynasty.
So you'll do it as a crab player. You'll do it as the first Dynasty action. So essentially, if the crab player is going first at the start of the next turn, they haven't made anything, but they put one fate on their Eager Scout. Well, I have no idea why they would do that. Ended up with a blank Eager Scout next turn, and your Akoda Tuturi is sitting there looking all smug with his 3 fate, and then they just pop that Eager Scout and you're done.
Interesting. Baz, do you think Dragon will splash crab for the attachments? J Tetsubo, Reprieve, Watch Commander, do you think those are good enough?
Tricky one. I'm not sure how much it helps. It does get him a lot of options. I think Reprieve as an attachment is amazing. It does dub. Well, no, that's not entirely true, because it's gonna get discarded. And really, with Reprieve, you kind of want to hold on to it till the very end and then get rid of it. I wouldn't be shocked if. So I think the 3 levy in crab and potentially Scorpion will be good. Obviously, we haven't seen Scorpion. I don't know, anyone who's just looking for a raw amount of force. But it also may be a meta call, like the Haruma Ambusher deals with problems. So right now we've seen something from each of the different clans. So I think if Dragon are worried about the bow effects, they'll go Lion. If they're worried about actions, if they're worried about actions in play on cards, that Haruma Ambusher is a great option. I don't think they can really play the Voice of Honor. No, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I think there's a lot of options out there, but I think because Crab are offering so many 1 influence cards, they're very attractive for a clan who wants a good spread. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to. We had sort of a Phoenix card shown at the end of the live stream, and then there was kind of a few cards that just popped up during in the course of play that we can have a little chat about. So
yeah, will we do the unaligned stuff first and leave the Phoenix one to?
Sure. So unaligned cards, we had Charge, which we've talked about as maybe completely bonkers, and again, thanks to Gray Morgan for these mock-ups. We had Court Games during a 0-cost event, which always worth a look. During a political conflict, choose a participating character you control, or choose an opponent. If you choose a participating character you control, honor them. If you choose an opponent, they can dishonor. They must choose and dishonor a participating character that they control. So honor one of your guys, or have your opponent dishonor one of theirs. Then we had Rout. 1-cost event. During a conflict, choose an opponent's participating character with lower military skill. than a participating Bushi that you control, move that character home. So send him effect. And we also saw a province, we don't have a mock-up for, but it was the Manicured Garden, which is during a conflict at this province, gain 1 fate. Which looks like it's a solid option for variety of clans. What were your thoughts on those, Justin?
Right. Well, Murholz is saying in chat that charge has gained the biggest overreaction so far. Potentially, and it also potentially means that you've got a clan champion dropping into a challenge for 1 fate. Admittedly, it's only for 1, but
what do you mean just for 1?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you're dragon or if you're crab, then what we've seen so far is they have ample ways of straightening a guy. So you could be unlucky enough to have Cassada drop in on you for the grand total of 1 fate, and then you could have a witch hunter making sure that he's doing double duty.
So
if they're lying, they'll be sticking around for an extra turn.
Oh yeah, because
never.
For greater glory.
No one will play that card. No one will play that card.
And no one's going to play Good Omen right either.
Yeah, they might know.
Charges, you do not have to pay the cost of the card that you're bringing into play. You don't have to. It's just the cost of charge. Good lord!
Unless there might be a rule to say you have to pay the cost to put them into play. But
so let's tone this down.
I think that's what we saw in the game.
The hype is really big. The first thing you have to do here is you have to play a card and you have to play a fate. So that's something. You're not going to be doing this with an Eager Scout. Another thing you have to do is you have to have that character in a province and have not made them. So there's so much fate going around, and you're not going to make all your provinces, but you have to have something worthwhile getting out, and you have to choose not to make them. On top of that, they are going to go at the end of turn. So if you've got a really good personality, you're not going to have the opportunity to invest that 1 extra fate to get them around for an extra turn. It's still bananas.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculously powerful card.
But I think
one turn of unlimited tempo. It's 1 turn of like huge boost.
So a couple of things. I think one is that it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be the dream Akodo Toturi example for this card to be good value. You do this on a 1 fake guy at the right time, and it's still not bad value, and you don't really care about him going away at the end of turn. And there was something else I was going to say and I've forgotten. But
you are all taking an action to get them in, so the action window goes over to your opponent. Your opponent has an opportunity to deal with them there and then.
Yeah, but it's but the downside for this card is very, very low. The upside is absolutely enormous. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But this seems really, really powerful. Particularly, I mean, if again, I suppose the dream is getting your clan champion into play for a turn. But if you get in Toturi or if you get in Hataru, you win the conflict, you resolve the ring twice. I mean, that's an awful lot of. It's a huge boost from 1 card. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. But this card definitely looks super, super powerful. Route is also just very, very good. The requirement isn't trivial necessarily. But that said, it's just so generically useful that it's going to see. I would imagine it's just going to see staple play in most military-oriented decks. It's just very, very powerful. Yeah, there's nothing more to say. Just very effective. Just very, very effective. One of the cards that's really impressed me most actually is Court Games. I think the fact that this is a 0 cost event is really what pushes it forward, or pushes it over the line in my opinion. So I certainly see this as being a card that honors your own personalities more than you'll be using it for dishonoring opposing personalities. But in a in a conflict where the opponent already has, basically where their ability to choose which personality they're going to dishonor is significantly reduced. Like you've already dishonored some of their personalities, or they're coming at you with just one guy. Then this could be a huge swing. But I mean, we've seen personalities with we've seen relatively cheap personalities with low stats but really high honor, and all of a sudden, for just the cost of one card, you have an enormous beat stick going in. So this card,
Court Games is also another element in all of the dishonor and all of the honor decks. If you completely ignore who you're hitting, it's just an extra point either way, and those last few points are tricky.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
A staple.
I think this is a staple card purely because of the zero cost. I mean, like with Rout, for example, depending on the clan that you're playing, there might be some redundancy with clan actions that you have, but so far we really haven't seen much. I suppose we've seen Way of the Crane approximates Court Games to a certain extent. But Court Games is just a little bit more flexible, if not as max one per conflict.
What do you think of it in the crab versus crab game?
I would wonder why the hell you're playing this card in. No. I think.
Court Games, crab versus crab. I'm not sure it's a card you would necessarily play in crab unless you're playing the crab deck. I would imagine crab will be playing Rout anyway because they have big beefy bushies and. Yeah, that's what we're doing. But I mean, Court Games it's a legitimate political pump action. It's the almost equivalent of Banzai for political, and it's the first one of those that we've seen.
And I mean, I think,
and in fact, actually, per conflict. So in fact, it actually is the counterpart to Banzai for political conflicts. So
and also makes for a really good defensive card when you're coming up against a crane deck and they're breeding down. You can just drop this without necessarily needing to defend and save a province.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's super. I mean, the thing with this is that you may just see kind of effectively counterspell wars where you've got both players playing Court Games. And I'm going to play my Court Games on you, or I'm going to play it on me, and then that's going to be countered immediately by your opponent's Court Games. So there's it's not.
And then it gets into the Voice of Honor war.
I know. So I mean, like Crane with the Voice of it's the shenanigans are deep and manifold here. But again, it's an absolutely staple card. Rout will certainly in the early going will be a staple for military. Charge will likely just be a staple for
everyone.
Unless we're reading this wrong, I'm not sure. But
okay, so I think we're up to 47 staples. What do we cut?
Yeah, absolutely.
For greater glory, we cut the
and that's to say. Yeah, and that's to say nothing about the province, which also looks like an absolute staple right now. Yeah. Fate is such a rare commodity and so valuable.
The Fate one. I thought you meant all the +5 province strengths provinces.
Oh, they're also awesome. I really like those. I really like those, especially the military one. But no, like the Manicured Garden, obviously. I mean, Manicured Garden can completely blow your combat maths. I mean, you can walk in, your opponent have one face, and you can add it up and go, right, I expect realistically this, and this to happen. Right, we'll attack their Manicured Garden, and all of a sudden, every calculation is out the window. And even worse than that, that can happen with other provinces where you walk into them and they change the ring type, and it's like, for feck's sake. But with this, keep the face. Yep. Even if the fate isn't really useful in that conflict, they get to keep it. And we're starting to see now at this stage, as more of these provinces come out, and again, moving on to the provinces, the ancestral lands and the fortified position, is it? Entrenched position?
I think it's entrenched.
We're starting to see, that it's absolutely possible to build a range of provinces that make attacking just really, really hard. Just but like if we take Phoenix as an example, so you're going to play a manicured guard. Actually, although I'm not sure about the elemental symbols, so if I'm getting those wrong, forgive me. So you've got
gardens in air.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay. So you've got Mori Kuroi, which is not as completely balls out powerful as we thought it was at the start, but still incredibly strong, and not something you want to be attacking all that often. You've got Manicured Garden. You've got even actually Pilgrimage is starting to look much better now, because that's another province you really don't want to be attacking, because if you don't win that conflict, you've surrendered so much in the event. And just the ones that pump themselves to 10 strength versus military or political. So yeah, it's getting really exciting and interesting now. The provinces are really starting to become a little metagame in their own right, which is it's fascinating to watch, actually. I mean, and like we can really see that the power level of the cards that they're starting to release now is much higher than the stuff we were seeing at the start.
Stuff like Charge, stuff like Way of the Crab, stuff. This stuff is completely. It's like night and day compared to what we saw early on.
Yeah, and I mean, that forces a complete reappraisal of how card draw works.
Yeah.
Because if it's powerful, then you want to be drawing a lot because you can just do more.
Yeah, and you want to be keeping more fate aside as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many things. Like every time, especially with the Crab Dragon game, like it's forced another significant reappraisal of how to approach the game. It's again, obviously, we're being drip fed information, but it's fascinating just to see how radically appraisals of cards and how things work in the game, because all of a sudden, For Greater Glory is actually just looking much better than I gave it credit for. So I know Andy's disgusted, dismayed even, but
Eugene makes one comment and now everyone comes around to his opinion.
It's valid. Yeah, it comes down to the fate war, basically. If every other clan is getting tempo from different sources of fate, like internal sources of fate, you absolutely have to have something that keeps your tempo up there. So if that's the only way Lion have to generate fate, and it seems like it is the only way for them to generate and they generate a mass amount of fate, but they only do it through that one card, right? Is there anything else that gets them fate?
Yeah. I think that's the only clan specific one we've seen.
Yeah,
and it's restricted as well. I mean, it's not. I still don't think it's the be all, but I think it's a significantly better card than I was giving it credit for. About a week ago.
We also saw Ornate Fan, which we sort of had. I think was sort of rumored, but not maybe confirmed previously that it was out there.
I'm sure we'd seen Ornate Fan before. Is that the 0 cost 0-2 +2 to?
Yeah, we pretty much knew what it was. Yeah, there wasn't really any doubt.
But again, it's amazing. It's it's a staple for decks that want to involve themselves in politics.
Which I think is most decks,
everyone,
right?
Pretty much everybody. Yeah. I think just about everybody. So. Certainly in the early going, I'd expect to see that card in most, if not all, decks. But I seem to be saying that about a lot of cards now. So,
okay, so maybe we can jump on talk a little bit about Display of Power.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Well, straight away, I'd just like to address the elephant in the room and. The fact, FFG they've been doing a decent job so far, but I think this is the first really catastrophic blunder they've made because they haven't printed the word power in all caps. So it is the first blunder, but we'll forgive them anyway.
This card is or something even,
fascinating. This card is absolutely fascinating. Just trying to extrapolate out what the Phoenix will be doing and how the Phoenix will be playing.
As John is saying in chat, the most Phoenixy card that ever Phoenixed, which I think is a good
absolutely
assessment.
It is Phoenixy. Okay, so anyway, to start with, it's a 2-cost event, which is super, super expensive. I mean, that's insanely expensive.
Unless Phoenix have something like that makes spells cheaper, which is not inconceivable.
Which is not inconceivable at all. So anyway, so it's a spell fire. You don't need a Shigenja to play it unless spells require a Shigenja by rulebook. So we don't, I don't know there. But okay, reaction: after you lose an unopposed conflict, cancel the ring effect of that conflict. Then you resolve that ring effect as if you had won the ring, as if you had won the conflict as the attacking player, and then you claim the ring. So yeah, it's.
Lose another honor, maybe a province.
Yeah, well, you're going to lose. Yeah, you're probably going to lose a province. You're going to lose an honor, but you're going to take the ring away from them and claim it as your own.
And claim any fate that's on the ring, right?
No.
That'll already be gone because they've taken the fate when they began the challenge. But, but again, this seems like a very context-sensitive card when you're coming down to the absolutely critical phases of the game, where a couple of points of honor might make a huge difference, or a point of fate on a personality might make a huge difference. Then if you can still, if they go after you with a void ring and you can turn it around on them and take the last fate off their champion, that's amazing. If they're coming after you to gain honor because or if they're coming after you with the air ring because you're at 24 or they're at 1 or something like that and they have to gain honor and you turn it around on them, also amazing. So yeah, it's very situational, but potentially game winning when you play it. But I think maybe the most interesting thing is what extrapolating out from this into a play style. If this is indicative of the Phoenix play style, then I think the Phoenix are going to be a clan that is not. They're going to be a clan that is probably an honor dishonor clan that doesn't aim to take provinces at all. That will not be going military unless by accident, and that will just basically shenanigans their way to victory in their games by manipulating.
They sound like probably the only proper control deck.
Potentially, but if they are controlling things, I think they're doing it in a very strange way. But I mean, that said, we have a huge amount. But if I was to guess at how the Phoenix played, I would guess that they are an honor dishonor deck that doesn't take provinces effectively, and that they're a defensive clan. They do sit back.
Yeah.
You just snipe the odd conflict here and there where they can, and use stuff like this to manipulate the conflict resolution and control the rings.
Yeah.
We've seen Seeker of Knowledge as well with Display of Power. So Seeker of Knowledge, if you win a conflict on the attack, when this character is attacking, the contested ring gains the air element. So that means you can declare air. If they attack, you steal air and then you get it. Otherwise, you declare air and you win it yourself, and then you attack with Secret Knowledge and you get air again. Like there's a lot in there, and that's just one combination of cards. I'm certain that they'll also have other ones that'll be like you get to trigger void if you do stuff. So it kind of feels like they're going to have a lot of different options over how to overly manipulate the rings, and you might see an honor deck that drop Secret Knowledge and keep switching air, or it might be do it with fire, or you could see a control deck that's just bowing all of your guys, blowing them up as well, and triggering as much void as it can.
Yeah, and we've seen the other action as well, which allows them to swap a ring. You can swap a ring from your pool back into the swap a ring you control back into the pool. So yeah,
nice ring. I think I'll keep it. Here, do you want to try that again?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, so you could come over. You could come over with void. The Phoenix could just let the province go. They could, demonstrate their power, take the void ring, remove it from you, and then drop the void ring into the pool. Declare their own conflict void. Take another fate off one of your guys. And maybe, I mean, if you find yourself in a fire conflict and they've got the guy who bows to kill people in a fire conflict, all of a sudden your board could just evaporate.
Yeah.
So they do look like the Shenanigans clan for sure. I think they'll be playing a very different game to anybody else. With
Show of Power, do you think it's legitimate to play to not play a character, to not bring out a character to save that as or Display of Power? Sorry. So the fact that it costs 2, you could be buying yourself a 2-cost personality or 2-cost character with no fate, or you could be playing Display of Power and maybe getting board control or destroying one of their characters or removing a fate, like taking Void or whatever it is from one of their characters. Would it be a legitimate play, do you think, to not bring out characters just so you can have this card in reserve?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, if, turn 1 if for example, if you're going second, so start with 8 fate, because we found out the player going second gets an additional fate. And then you just go, your opponent goes, I'll bring out a dude, and you go, right, I'll pass, I'll go to 9 fate. They come over for a conflict, you Display of Power it and steal their ring and cancel out that turn, and on the following turn you've got 15 fate. So you just go, if your clan champion shows up, it's like clan champion with 10 fate. Obviously not, but it's I don't know. The Phoenix look odd.
It could be really crushing. I mean, they could be really devastating.
Yeah. Again, cards like this have a real kind of rope-a-dope feel to them, where you just get you just get RKO'd out of nowhere. You think you're doing fine, and then all of a sudden, 2 conflicts later, your board is in tatters, and and the Phoenix is sitting there going, yep.
For this one, Display of Power for me is actually, when I was thinking about building the Crab Dishonor deck, it was 2 Display of Power, 3 Seeker of Knowledge. And the reason I was thinking that was, when you're playing Dishonor, the Ring of Air is nothing in some matchups, or it's not very important in some matchups. If you're both playing decks trying to destroy each other's provinces, it's kind of the weakest ring because it's got the smallest effect on the board, because honor only matters when you're about to hit 25 or you're about to go to 0, and before that it's not critical. But if you're on, say, 3 honor, I've gotten you down to 3 honor, and you go, wow, Ring of Air is suddenly the most important ring in this conflict. I've got first conflict. Ring of Air immediately. I need to get 2 honor. I need to go back to the 5. I need to be in a better position. Swing. And I go, no defense.
No defenders.
You're blown out, because you probably overcommitted to that swing to make sure you get the air, because you knew it was to get air. And all of a sudden I go Display of Power, take it back, and then attack politics, Seeker of Knowledge into thing. Wow. Life is not unhappy. Life is rapidly unhappy.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Or you just go for fire and dishonor one of their guys that's about to die that turn. So, it's a card that has serious blowout potential for sure.
With the other effects that you have with Crab, I mean, being able to lock people out of the battle or covert people out of the battle. Was it covert? Is that the keyword that prevents people from assigning?
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like you're going to be able to pick and choose who goes where, limit resources a lot. They have to overcommit to guarantee, and then you've got them hamstrung basically right where you want them. It seems like a really, really good card.
It really does. Actually, the more I think about it, the more it seems worth that 2 fate cost. It really does. So yeah, it's really interesting. I cannot wait to see the rest of the Phoenix stuff.
My honest hope for Phoenix is that they get a lot more play with the rings, so they become super flexible and have lots of interactions and traits that sometimes maybe work together. Really powerful cards, but maybe difficult getting synergy because of the power. You heard what I'm saying here, Justin?
That's never going to happen because they're Phoenix.
No, there will be no synergy whatsoever.
Well, I really don't know. I don't know what to expect from Phoenix, but I'm super excited to see what they're going to be like. As I said,
just to mention on that, when we got to see the lion and the crane, so the crane first, they were relatively straightforward. We were learning a lot of things about it. Ultimately, we thought we were going to be an honor deck, but ultimately they're just a straight political military deck. Same with lion. Lion was kind of the other side, showed a couple of other interesting aspects of it. You got your Kitsu. Again, relatively straightforward, a different angle. That kind of pair off was quite good. Once we got to Dragon, it wasn't too much of a change. You're just looking at one single guy. It was a slightly different focus, and it was kind of well done. Crab have pushed the game up again. Crab have very different, very exciting mechanics. I'm really interested to see what they do with Phoenix and with the rest of them, because they've been kind of drip feeding us the more basic, more obvious things, and things have been getting more and more interesting as we come along. I'm really impressed by the design and how they've managed to stretch the game to get the character and get a lot of play out of these different decks.
Absolutely.
Give me cards.
Yeah.
Want to play?
So I kind of had a couple of questions. So one question I was curious about: so we saw the designers playing last Friday. Did anyone sort of learn anything from the experience of watching people who are more experienced at the game, or who sort of have lived with it for a lot longer than the rest of us? Did you pick anything up from that?
Yeah, apparently the game makes you super intense.
Oh no, this is not a good game for me.
But they were really into it. They were really into it. I wonder if there's some kind of bitter rivalry there that we're only.
It's all lighthearted, fun and games until there's 1,000 people watching the live stream, and then suddenly no one wants to lose.
That's probably game 500 and the 250 playoff streak.
Yeah,
I think the aggression surprised me. Certainly in the way we've been playing it, because I think maybe coming from old Five Rings, you tend to make sure that your own base is secure before you go off marauding for a lot of the time. This one, it's I was very surprised at the aggression, and the other thing that surprised me was you had two very, very different approaches. On the dragon side, you had lots of little guys, and on the crab side, you had Quesada, effectively. But despite the fact, again, in Old Five Rings, the power disparities between personalities was often so great that, Quesada on his own, or actually it wouldn't have been Quesada, what was the other ridiculous?
Kuon.
Kuon. Like, Kuon on his own would just win games.
Yeah.
On just single-handed would just win games. But it was fascinating to watch in this, in the game they played. That wasn't the case. If anything, I thought the dragon seemed to have the upper hand for a lot of that game.
It felt like
but it wasn't clear. It really wasn't clear who had the upper hand, and that could have pitched at any given time. But it was just really nice to see that getting you're getting your clan champion was not a blowout one way or the other. The game was still very, very tightly contested so that was surprising and fantastic to see for me.
Yep. Cool. And so the other thing I wanted to sort of touch on was the crab fiction. So that was a week and a half ago. We sort of talked quite a bit about the legend of Hida Quesada in 054 the last time we were having a chat. Did he live up to your hopes and dreams, Eoin?
Yeah, it was very much a setting the stakes fiction where you're establishing this is what the situation that Quesada is faced with, which is somewhat desperate, but he manages to hold on through expending resources and expending men and women as resources, and marshalling his children. You got kind of three fractious, still very untried youths in some ways. That Sukune's kind of worrying, Yakumo's too brash, and Awushi's too eager. It's good to see the kids again, actually. And they're there, each with their own issues, still need to go through their tempering. Whereas Quesada is actually the mature warrior, coming to a point where he's like, I may have to make some sort of choice. So it's priming the pump very well for him as somebody who might make a horrible choice later on in the storyline. And people would say, well, actually, he's kind of justified in what he's done because he's been driven to that point. I thought it brought across the themes of the crowd quite well. it put in, like, the Caillou Wall is one of the great dramatic settings of L5R. So it's good to see that represented in kind of its own character in a way. And a lot of little Easter eggs in there for established fans. You've got the three kids are there. Yari's there. Taka's there. They changed up who the Caillou and Haruma daimyos are, so that there are 2 female daimyos. The new Caillou and new Haruma daimyo are both female. I hope Haruma Kage's still around, because I was always a big fan of him. But it's possible he's, the current Haruma daimyo's son. So that's good. And it's basically, you got a good set of, here are what the crab are, here are the situation they are currently in, and now stuff is going to start happening. So that was good.
Yeah, I felt it was possibly my least favorite of the fiction so far, in terms of it felt like there was a lot of setup, but not the payoff yet. There was aspects I liked. I liked to sort of, we're seeing, before all the clan champions we've seen are kind of young and active and kind of in their prime, and we're seeing someone who's older and dealing with not being the warrior maybe that he used to be in the past, and that was kind of quite a nice touch. And I kind of like the sort of setup of the 3 kids, and you can see the tension building there. But there was not, I don't know, I felt I didn't quite get to the payoff maybe I got from some of the other stories, but that was just me. What about the rest of you guys?
For me, the payoff was Quesada at the end, where basically he's like, I guess he kind of is it kind of like the it's a bit of a Goldilocks. It's like, this kid's too brash, this kid's too weak. But at the end of it, he's like, no, actually, they're all pretty good, but they're wrong. It was that Tomatsu chick. She was the one who kicked ass, because she went out, did what needed to be done, didn't care about glory, didn't fear death, faced down the Shadowlands, and did what had to be done. And I really liked that element. And it was the nameless character turned out to be the hero out of the entire story for me, which I thought I thought really summed up the crab very well. And I very, very much like that.
And then I kind of just jumping ahead, because we've actually been going for a while, but this stuff I kind of want to get to. So, and I thought it was quite interesting. So, sort of last time we talked about what we hope to see from the crab. So, Justin, what do you hope to see from the Phoenix fiction? What did you really like that you'd like to see back again in terms of characters or traits?
Yeah, the Masters, obviously. I mean, if you're talking about the Phoenix, then you're talking about the Elemental Masters, really. They're the heart and soul. Well, okay, they're maybe a bad choice of words, but they are. they're the core characters that really drive the Phoenix story forward. They're incredibly powerful, incredibly arrogant, and yeah, just make terrible decisions with the best of intentions. It's even hard to say that, but they may just continually make terrible decisions and have to be babysat like children by the Shiba champion. So more of that, yeah.
Like that Isawa Hochiu guy. What a tragic character.
Yeah, he was a shocking waste of potential. Waste of potential.
Who would even create that card? Who would even imagine that into existence?
I have no idea.
No
idea. Who but a yogurt?
Yeah.
To be fair,
that
character was fine originally until someone messed with him.
Ah, God, no, and not the first character, and not the last character that was messed with. The shadow dragon. The poor water.
If you could show me on the doll where the nasty player touched you. So
like what you did to the poor water dragon, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Air dragon.
Sorry, air dragon. Yeah, of course.
It knows what it did.
I don't know, but I mean, from the teasers we've had about the Phoenix, they are slightly worrying, because the Phoenix are up in arms about the unicorn strange magic and this is one of my absolutely least favorite aspects of the Phoenix. That was never there originally, but it's it got a long run of the Phoenix being these kind of reactionary, protectionist, uncompassionate, uncurious conservatives, which the Phoenix really weren't originally. So I
can see why you played them.
Yes, I'm desperately hoping that's not the direction that the Phoenix are headed in.
Well, to be fair, they're very conservative about other people doing things. They're not so conservative about doing things themselves.
Well, other people clearly don't know what they're dealing with. Yeah. So they can't be trusted.
It's like, how do we fix that unicorn problem? We don't know. Have we checked in the Black Scrolls yet?
Yeah.
It's always the last place you looked, which is like the Black Scroll.
But it is a direction that I don't think has it doesn't have a huge amount of dramatic potential, and I just really hope that we don't go back down that we are the Phoenix, we run magic, you do what we say, kind of throwing hissy fits in the corner. It's just.
The other thing that's been hinted is the perfect land sex stuff from the dragon, and how Phoenix are very much against that, where the dragon are somewhat neutral.
Again, super conservative and grumpy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, the Phoenix, like in the very old days, the Phoenix did Sacco Inquisitors who were originally just pretty badass and went around, weeding out heresy and stuff like that. Good friends with the Cooney witch hunters. But they were a tiny fraction of the clan's identity. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what their vision for the Phoenix is in the reimagined storyline. But I'm just really hoping it isn't that kind of conservative. Just.
Now, we have seen that each of the clans have had a bit of a tension with one of the other clans at the very least. Hopefully, it's just more of that, and it's not going to be one of the kind of major focus.
Yes.
That said, if roaming around the country, burninating people is going to be one of their focuses, I don't think you're going to be too upset.
No, I mean,
Do you need to know the reasons? It's like, burninate that guy. Are you going to ask why, or are you going to fireball?
Eventually, guys. Eventually. Because eventually someone in power is going to ask why you were doing that, and you'd better have made up a good reason by the time that happens.
You talk about burninate, Baz. I just want to see them make a Trogdor character. That'd be amazing.
A Sawa Trogdor.
A Sawa Trogdor.
Anyway, so we'll see with the Phoenix. There's no precedent for where they are in the story at the moment. So we'll just see.
Cool. And
it's about as non-committal as I can get.
That's fine. And so then maybe just the last thing, kind of the aspect. So we've got some people starting to take pre-orders now. A lot of shops and stores. And obviously there's been the European release event has been sort of teased, but we don't really know much more about that. What are your expectations for that, for either or both of those things, Eoin?
So for the pre-orders, wow, there's been it's kind of like, yeah, guys, pre-orders are going to start happening, and I've heard dates thrown around as disparate as September, October, December in one case, and I said, God, that'd be a disaster. But I think it's looking, a lot of shops seem to be thinking October. Now, I think it might be a little bit earlier than that, but they're certainly, I think shops are kind of going, yeah, October. I've seen a number of shops start to go, guys, get your pre-orders in. We think this is going to be, demand will exceed supply. So please let us know early.
And my local store here said, get in before the 5th of October. And they normally ask, I think, about a week, up to a week beforehand, I think it is. So fingers crossed it'll be coming out early in October, which is really far away right now.
Yeah, I know. Particularly for those not going to Gen Con. And what the European release event, we know Patriot Games are involved to some degree, but do you think that will be is it as simple as that will be at Patriot Games in Sheffield, or where they're also in Leeds, I think, as well? Or will it be a more bigger or more neutral location?
So I think Asmodee and FFG have to make a big decision about what they're doing. Are they going to try and put together a huge tentpole event that they'll draw a couple of hundred people for somewhere relatively central in Europe and easy to get to? Or are they going to say, actually, we're just going to do a bunch of stores? Or are they going to think, actually, what we might do is we'll do a biggish one in England, we'll do a biggish one in Germany, we'll do a biggish one in Spain, we'll do a biggest one in France and see what happens. I don't know. And I haven't heard anything from them yet. I think they were leaning towards doing, let's do one big one somewhere accessible in Europe, which might mean somewhere in France or might mean somewhere in Germany or might mean Spain, because the guys in Patriot have kind of said, okay, they haven't said anything for definite, but they've kind of implied, yeah, it may not be at us lads, you know, be prepared to travel a little bit. So that might be what happens. I don't know. And I don't know how fast the localizations are going to come out. So they will localize L5R. They'll do a French version, they'll do a German version, and so on. So it'll be interesting if those are synchronized to come out at the same time.
I saw some people commenting on the translations and some of the possibly questionable choices that were made in some of them. I think maybe the French one, the Doomed Shugenja, had become the Shugenja of Doom. Which is slightly different, but you know, good in its own way.
Much better.
In Star Wars Destiny, the entirety of the second set got hacked off a Polish localizer. And I say hacked off a Polish localizer because they were storing it on a public archive online. That just someone just found the web address and went in and downloaded everything. So it was hacking in the loosest sense of the word. But that's going to be out there as well. We're going to start seeing things like, you know, Game of Thrones had endemic leaks from the Polish localizers for a while. So when that happens, when they're out being localized, we'll start to see information coming out in different languages. So
like in French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although all those ones were in English for some reason.
Yeah. So we shall see. But I'm interested to see how quick the localizations come out and how big an international kind of flavor happens in Europe. I think the infrastructure is there.
Yeah, they've got Asmodee in there now, so
and distribution that they can run a big series of events, or they can run one really big event. It's just down to themselves to organize it and then think really carefully about: are we going to do prize support for this? Are we going to do participation prizes for this? Are we going to make this a must-attend event for Europe? And it'd be great to start hearing some news about that now, because that probably has to happen in September, October. And like, do you go to Essen with it? I think they'd be mad to go to Essen with it. There's just not the space. But they might decide, well, same weekend of Essen, we'll rent a hotel. You don't know. So it would be lovely to hear something about what their plan is.
I think Essen would be madness, I would say. That would be I mean, the amount of people that descend on that town at that point is just insane. And to run that event, you're basically making it exclusive by the fact of the number of people that can fit in accommodation in Essen, because it just goes mental at that point.
Yeah, and I think people, if they are going to have to travel overseas, particularly, are going to have to start making decisions about flights and hotels, and also, I mean, it might affect how people pre-order, if they will assume they're going to get one from a launch event or get their three, or what they're going to do. So,
well, here's another question I have actually. If, let's say, if it was in France or Spain or Germany or the UK, would you guys be going?
Yeah.
I'd have to book some holidays from work and get some flights, but yeah, I'd certainly be interested in it.
And how many people do you think in the L5R community would be going as well? Because this thing is going to be, I think if they make a big pre-release event, it's going to be pretty popular in Europe, I would say.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I mean, I think you're looking at like 300 plus participants easily across the European countries.
Yeah, I could ever see that. I think I'd go if it was pretty much anywhere in Europe, and obviously if it's in the UK, it's
even easier.
Just up the road. Yeah.
But even just getting kind of location and organizing something at such short notice is going to be tricky for them. I'm assuming after Gen Con, Well, I don't want to say realize because I think they already knew that it was going to be super popular. Possibly the scale of it was much larger than we're expecting. So I'm assuming maybe a week, 2 weeks after they sorted out those extra spaces for Gen Con, they maybe started thinking about something over here. But whether that'll kind of come to fruition or how long it'll take, I do want to know how many boxes I want to order. Do I ask for 3 now just to make sure? And then if there's an event, get an extra one? Is 4 boxes too many? Do I need 5? Should I get 6? Who knows?
Okay. Good stuff. I think that's maybe a good place to wrap it up, but we do need a beaver fact before we go. So
absolutely. Do you know that beavers' front teeth are orange? They are orange.
I know why their teeth are orange, in fact.
Oh my god.
Shut up, Colm.
I may have been reading up on beaver facts myself.
Yeah. They have iron content, which makes their teeth incredibly tough and robust and lets them chew through really hard materials. Also, they build the second largest structures on the planet after humans.
Wow.
Yeah. Their dams are huge. There's one up in, I think, remote Alaska that was 750 meters across.
Jesus Christ.
Northern Alberta, 850 meters deep.
What the fuck?
It is, someone only got to it last September because it was that remote. They've just been working on it so long. They used, one of the things they use them is to store food below the ice, so it doesn't, so it's,
preserved.
So yeah.
Wow. Good facts. Good job. All right. I think that's a good place to wrap up with brilliant beaver facts. Cool. So thanks, guys. Thanks to all the guys in chat who are chatting away and giving opinions and advice. And yeah, I think we'll probably maybe try and get a game in at some point. But I'll put something on Twitter or Facebook. The Imperial Advisor pages, kind of when we're going to do that, because I think we don't really know that far in advance when we'll be free. And the normal show will be back in 2 weeks' time. So with that, we'll say goodnight. And see you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take it easy, everybody.
Bye.